Mumbai's monsoon season had finally broken, leaving behind clear skies and the kind of humid warmth that made wedding celebrations feel even more vibrant. In the bustling neighborhood of Andheri West, preparations for what should have been the happiest day of 22-year-old Priya Sharma's life were reaching their peak. Red and gold decorations adorned every corner of the wedding venue. The scent of marigold garlands filled the air, and hundreds of guests were expected to witness her union with Rahul Kapoor, a software engineer she had known since college. For months, Priya had poured her heart into planning every detail. This wasn't just a wedding. In Indian culture, a wedding represents the merging of two families, the culmination of years of hopes and dreams, and a moment when a young woman becomes the center of attention in a way she may never experience again. For Priya, who came from a middle-class family that had saved for years to afford this celebration, the wedding represented even more. It was proof of her worth, her beauty, her ability to secure a good match. It was her moment to shine. But when the big day arrived on October 12, 2025, one conspicuous absence cast a shadow over the festivities. Meera Patel, Priya's newest friend, and someone she had considered practically a sister for the past 3 months, never showed up. No phone call, no message, no explanation. Just empty space where Meera should have been sitting among the bridesmaids. Dressed in the matching pink and silver sari Priya had personally selected for her. To understand why this absence would lead to such devastating consequences, we need to understand who these two young women were and how their brief but intense friendship had formed in the chaotic sprawl of Mumbai's urban landscape. Priya Sharma had grown up in a traditional Hindu household in Andheri, the eldest daughter of a bank clerk father and homemaker mother. She had 2 younger brothers who were still in school, and from an early age, she understood that her role in the family was different from theirs. While her brothers were encouraged to pursue their ambitions freely, Priya's path had always been clear. Study well enough to be considered educated, maintain a spotless reputation, and marry into a good family at the appropriate age. She had completed her bachelor's degree in commerce in 2023, but unlike many of her classmates who went on to pursue careers, Priya's focus immediately shifted to preparation for marriage. Her mother began taking her to temples every Tuesday and Saturday to pray for a good husband. Her father quietly began setting aside money for her dowry, though the practice was technically illegal. Priya herself started attending cooking classes, yoga sessions to maintain her figure, and even skin-lightening treatments, all in service of making herself the most desirable bride possible. When Rahul Kapoor's family approached through a mutual connection in early 2025, it seemed like answered prayers. Rahul was 26, well-educated, earning a good salary at a multinational tech company, and came from a respectable family. The match was arranged quickly. They met 3 times under the watchful eyes of their families before the engagement ceremony in June. By August, wedding preparations were in full swing. During these months of intense planning, Priya's world became consumed by wedding logistics. Guest lists had to be finalized, catering vendors negotiated with, jewelry selected, saris purchased, photographers booked, and 1,000 other details managed. Her mother, though helpful, was often overwhelmed. Her female relatives offered opinions but little practical help. Priya found herself desperately needing a friend her own age who could share in the excitement, help with decisions, and provide emotional support through the stress. Enter Meera Patel. 21-year-old. Meera had moved to Mumbai from Ahmedabad in July 2025 to start a job as a graphic designer at a small advertising agency in Lower Parel. She was young, ambitious, and eager to make her mark in the big city. Unlike Priya, Meera represented a different kind of modern Indian woman. She had resisted her family's pressure to consider marriage, insisting she wanted to establish her career first. She rented a small apartment with 2 other working women, spent her weekends exploring Mumbai's cafes and art galleries, and maintained an active social media presence showcasing her independent lifestyle. The two women met in late July at a mutual friend's birthday party in Bandra. They struck up a conversation about wedding planning, Priya explaining her stress and Meera offering sympathy and practical suggestions from a fresh perspective. They exchanged numbers, and what started as occasional WhatsApp messages quickly evolved into daily phone calls and frequent meetups. For Priya, Meera was a breath of fresh air. She was fun, modern, full of creative ideas for the wedding, and most importantly, she made Priya feel like she was more than just a bride-to-be. Meera didn't judge her for choosing traditional marriage over career. She listened to Priya's anxieties about moving in with her in-laws after the wedding. She helped pick out jewelry and gave honest opinions about makeup looks. For 3 months, they were inseparable. For Meera, Priya represented something different too. Most of her friends in Mumbai were career-focused like herself, and while she loved that life, part of her was curious about the path not taken. Priya's excitement about her wedding, her deep connection to tradition, her genuine happiness at the prospect of starting a family, all of this fascinated Meera. She enjoyed being part of the wedding preparations, helping with decorations, giving advice on photography angles, even participating in some of the pre-wedding ceremonies. But as October approached and the wedding date grew closer, subtle tensions began to emerge. Meera's work schedule was demanding. Her agency had landed a major client in late September, and suddenly she was working late nights and weekends. When Priya called wanting to meet up to finalize seating arrangements or discuss last-minute decoration changes, Meera sometimes had to decline. When Priya invited her to a small puja ceremony at her home, Meera showed up 2 hours late, having come straight from office. These small disappointments began to accumulate. Priya, meanwhile, was under enormous pressure. Indian weddings are not just about the bride and groom. They are performances where families are judged, where social status is displayed, where every detail is scrutinized by hundreds of guests who will gossip about any perceived shortcomings for years to come. Priya's mother constantly reminded her that people would be watching, evaluating, comparing their wedding to others. The pressure was suffocating. In this pressure cooker environment, Meera's increasingly frequent absences began to feel like betrayals to Priya. When Meera said she couldn't attend the Mehendi ceremony because of a work deadline, Priya felt hurt. When Meera was late to the Sangeet rehearsal, Priya felt disrespected. But she swallowed these feelings, smiled, and pretended everything was fine. The breaking point came 1 week before the wedding. Priya had organized a small gathering for her female friends and relatives, a traditional function where they would apply turmeric paste to her skin, sing songs, and celebrate her transition from unmarried girl to bride. She had specifically told Meera about this event weeks in advance. She had even bought Meera a special sari to wear to it. Meera didn't show up. When Priya called her frantically during the event, Meera answered with construction noise in the background. She was at a work site, photographing a client's new office space for a marketing campaign. She had completely forgotten about Priya's function. She apologized profusely, said she would make it up to her, promised she would definitely be at the wedding itself. But for Priya, sitting surrounded by relatives who asked where her close friend Meera was, who commented that young people these days have no respect for tradition, who implied that perhaps Meera wasn't really such a good friend after all. The humiliation was crushing. That night, after all the guests had left, Priya lay in bed staring at the ceiling. Her wedding was in 1 week. Everything should have been perfect. Instead, she felt a growing resentment toward the one person she had trusted most during this journey. She told herself she was being silly, that Meera had a demanding job, that one missed function didn't erase 3 months of friendship, but the seed of anger had been planted. The morning of October 12th arrived with the kind of chaos that only an Indian wedding can produce. By 5 a.m., Priya's house was already buzzing with activity. Aunties shouted instructions to caterers, uncles argued about parking arrangements, and the makeup artist was setting up her equipment in Priya's bedroom. The bride herself sat quietly in the center of this storm, her stomach twisted in knots that had nothing to do with pre-wedding jitters. She had checked her phone 17 times already. No message from Mira. The ceremony was scheduled to begin at 6 p.m., following the auspicious timing recommended by the family priest. Priya's beautification process would take hours. First came the ritual bath with turmeric water, performed by her mother and aunts, with tears in their eyes, as they sang traditional songs about daughters leaving their parental homes. Then the makeup artist began her work, transforming Priya's face with layers of foundation, heavy eye makeup, and the distinctive bridal glow that takes years of practice to perfect. As the artist worked, Priya's mother draped the bridal lehenga over a chair, a stunning creation of red silk embroidered with gold thread that had cost nearly 2 lakhs. The jewelry came next, heavy gold necklaces, matching earrings that pulled at her earlobes, bangles that covered both arms from wrist to elbow, a methapeti that draped across her forehead, and finally the nose ring that connected to her ear with a delicate gold chain. By 3 p.m., Priya was ready. She looked at herself in the mirror and barely recognized the woman staring back. She looked beautiful, exactly like the brides in the wedding magazines she had studied for months. But something felt hollow. "Has Mira called?" she asked her younger cousin Anjali, who was helping manage her phone. Anjali checked and shook her head. "Nothing yet, Didi. But there's still time. I'm sure she'll be here." Priya forced a smile and nodded, but inside, a dark feeling was spreading. How could Mira do this? After everything they had shared, after all the promises, after Priya had trusted her with such an important role in her wedding, how could she simply not show up? The wedding venue was a large hall in Juhu, decorated exactly as Priya had envisioned. Strings of jasmine and marigold flowers created canopies overhead. Thousands of small lights twinkled against draped fabric. And the mandap, where the ceremony would take place, looked like something from a Bollywood film. Guests began arriving by 4:30, and by 5. The hall was packed with nearly 400 people. Priya made her grand entrance at 5:30, carried in on a decorated dolly by her brothers and male cousins, while a DJ played popular Bollywood wedding songs. Cameras flashed, relatives cried, and everyone commented on how beautiful the bride looked. She smiled and waved, playing her part perfectly, but her eyes kept scanning the crowd. No Mira. As she sat on the decorated stage next to Rahul, who looked handsome in his cream sherwani, Priya tried to focus on the ceremony. The priest chanted Sanskrit verses she didn't understand. Rahul tied the Mangal Sutra around her neck. They circled the sacred fire 7 times, taking vows that would bind them for life. Wreaths was thrown, blessings were given, and officially they were husband and wife. Through it all, Priya's mind was elsewhere. She noticed the empty chair in the bridesmaids section where Mira should have been sitting. She noticed her mother's concerned glances, knowing exactly what was bothering her daughter. She noticed relatives whispering, probably commenting on Mira's absence. The reception followed immediately after the ceremony, with dinner service, speeches, and the traditional cake cutting. Priya and Rahul stood together, accepting congratulations from an endless line of guests. Her feet ached in the heavy bridal shoes, her neck hurt from the weight of the jewelry, and her face hurt from maintaining a constant smile. "Congratulations." "Beta," said Mrs. Khanna, one of her mother's friends. "Such a beautiful wedding. But where is that friend of yours, Mira? I thought she was like your sister." Priya's smile tightened. "She had some emergency." "Work-related?" "Oh, these modern girls." Mrs. Khanna clucked her tongue, always putting career before relationships. In our time, we knew what was important. By the time the reception ended at midnight, Priya was exhausted, furious, and trying desperately not to let it show. As was customary, she would leave with Rahul's family that night for their home in Borivali, where she would now live as their daughter-in-law. There would be more ceremonies the next day, more performances of gratitude and respect. In the car ride to her new home, while Rahul's mother chatted happily about how well everything had gone, Priya checked her phone one more time. Finally, there was a message from Mira, sent at 11 p.m. "Priya, I'm so sorry. Something came up with my family. Emergency situation. I feel terrible about missing your wedding. Can we talk tomorrow?" Congratulations on your marriage. Priya stared at the message, her hands trembling. Something came up, an emergency. These vague, insufficient words were supposed to explain away the most important day of her life. No detailed explanation, no desperate apologies, just a casual message sent hours after the fact. She typed and deleted several responses. Part of her wanted to scream through text, to unleash all the hurt and anger. But another part of her, the part that had been trained her whole life to be accommodating and understanding, held back. Maybe it really was an emergency. Maybe Mira had a good reason. She finally typed, "We'll talk later." Tired now. But sleep didn't come easily that night in her new bedroom in her husband's family home. As Rahul slept beside her, exhausted from the long day, Priya lay awake replaying every moment of the wedding. Every time someone had asked about Mira, every sympathetic look from relatives who knew how close they had been, every whispered comment about young people and their lack of commitment, the humiliation burned hotter than any joy from the ceremony. Over the next few days, as Priya settled into her new life, Mira sent several more messages. Casual updates about work, mentions of missing Priya, suggestions to meet up for coffee, but never a detailed explanation about the wedding. Never the groveling apology Priya felt she deserved. Priya's responses grew colder and shorter. She was busy with post-wedding rituals, she said, adjusting to married life. No time to meet. The truth was, something had broken inside her. The friendship that had meant everything just weeks ago now felt like a betrayal. And with each passing day, instead of the anger fading, it intensified. She found herself obsessing over it, lying awake at night, cataloguing every instance where Mira had let her down, reinterpreting their entire friendship through this new lens of disappointment. Rahul noticed his new wife's distraction, but attributed it to adjustment stress. His mother noticed too and made comments about young brides needing time to adapt. Nobody understood that Priya was nursing a wound that went deeper than anyone realized. By late October, Mira's messages had become more concerned. "Priya, are you angry with me? Please, let's talk. I miss my friend." Priya didn't respond. She had decided that if Mira couldn't understand how badly she had hurt her, if she couldn't offer a proper apology, then maybe their friendship wasn't worth saving. What Priya didn't know was that Mira's absence had indeed been due to a genuine emergency. Her father had suffered a heart attack on the morning of October 12th. Mira had rushed to Ahmedabad, spent the day in the hospital while doctors fought to save his life, and had been too devastated to properly explain the situation. She had assumed Priya would understand, would reach out, would give her space to deal with her family crisis. Neither woman understood what the other was going through. And in that gap of misunderstanding, something dark was growing. November brought with it the festival of Diwali, a time when Mumbai transforms into a city of lights, firecrackers, and family gatherings. For Priya, now 1 month into her marriage, it should have been a joyous time of celebration. Instead, she found herself trapped in a prison of her own resentment. Life as a new daughter-in-law in the Kapoor household was not what she had imagined. Rahul's mother, while not cruel, ran a strict household with clear expectations. Priya was expected to wake before everyone else to prepare tea, to cook elaborate meals despite having limited experience, to dress modestly at home, and to always be available to serve guests. Rahul himself was kind but distant, often working late hours and leaving Priya alone with his parents and younger sister. The adjustment was harder than anyone had prepared her for. Gone was the girl who spent hours on the phone with friends, who went shopping on weekends, who had time for her own thoughts. Now she was Rahul's wife, the Kapoor family's new Bahu, a role that seemed to swallow her individual identity completely. In this isolation, her anger toward Mira became an anchor, something to focus on when everything else felt overwhelming. She would replay the wedding in her mind during sleepless nights, imagining alternative scenarios where Mira had shown up, where her friend had been there to witness her big moment. The fantasy hurt more than the reality. By mid-November, Mira's messages had grown desperate. "Priya, please. I need to explain what happened. My papa had a heart attack the morning of your wedding. I was in the hospital with him all day. I should have called, I should have explained better, but I was so scared he would die. He's stable now, but it was the worst day of my life. Please understand. Priya read the message 3 times. Part of her felt immediate sympathy. A heart attack was serious, terrifying. Of course, Meera hadn't been able to attend under those circumstances. Any reasonable person would understand that. But Priya wasn't feeling reasonable. She was feeling bitter, trapped, and looking for someone to blame for why her perfect wedding hadn't felt perfect at all. Her mind twisted the information into a new narrative. If it had really been such an emergency, why hadn't Meera called immediately? Why send a casual text at 11 p.m.? Why not reach out during the reception, even just to explain? Why wait weeks to mention her father's condition? The more Priya thought about it, the more suspicious it seemed. Maybe Meera was lying. Maybe she had simply decided that work was more important, or that attending a traditional wedding wasn't worth her time, and now she was making up a dramatic excuse. After all, Meera had posted on Instagram the previous week, sharing pictures of a new art exhibition she had attended. If her father had just suffered a heart attack, would she really be out enjoying art shows? What Priya didn't understand was that Meera's father had recovered within a week, that the art exhibition was part of processing her trauma, that life moves forward even after crises. Priya saw only what confirmed her anger. She typed a cold response. "I'm glad your father is okay, but you should have told me this immediately. The wedding was ruined because of you. Everyone asked where you were. Everyone judged me because my so-called best friend couldn't even show up. You embarrassed me in front of 400 people. Meera's reply came within minutes. "Priya, I'm so sorry. You're right. I should have communicated better. I was in shock, not thinking clearly. Please let me make it up to you. Can we meet? Coffee at our usual place in Bandra?" Priya didn't respond immediately. She let the message sit for 2 days, a small act of power that felt satisfying. When she finally agreed, it was with conditions. Meera would have to come to Borivali, to a restaurant near Priya's new home. Priya wouldn't make the effort to travel across the city. They set the meeting for November 18th, a Tuesday afternoon when Rahul's family would be out for a religious function that Priya had been excused from attending. Meera agreed eagerly, relieved at the chance to finally explain face to face, to salvage their friendship. The days leading up to the meeting were strange for Priya. She found herself rehearsing conversations, planning exactly what she would say, how she would make Meera understand the depth of hurt she had caused. She imagined Meera begging for forgiveness, crying, promising to never let her down again. The fantasy was intoxicating, but she also felt something else, something darker that she didn't want to examine too closely. There was anger there, yes, but also something that felt almost like hatred. When she looked at Meera's Instagram profile, seeing pictures of her smiling at cafes, posing with work colleagues, living her independent life, Priya felt a rage that seemed disproportionate even to her. It wasn't just about the wedding anymore. It was about everything Meera represented. Freedom, choice, a life where you could put your career first, where you didn't have to wake at 5:30 to make tea for in-laws, where you weren't judged for every tiny decision. Meera had that life, and Priya didn't, and somehow that felt like Meera's fault too. On the morning of November 18th, Priya woke with a strange sense of anticipation. She dressed carefully in a simple salwar kameez, applied minimal makeup, and tied her hair back. She wanted to look like a married woman, grounded and mature, not like the silly girl who had once giggled with Meera over wedding magazines. The restaurant was a small Udupi place, known for its South Indian food, quiet and relatively empty on a Tuesday afternoon. Priya arrived first and ordered a coffee she didn't drink, her hands trembling slightly as she waited. Meera walked in at 2:15, exactly on time. She looked thinner than Priya remembered, with dark circles under her eyes that makeup couldn't quite hide. She was dressed in jeans and a kurta, her usual work-casual style, and she carried a gift bag decorated with traditional patterns. "Priya," she said, her voice warm with relief as she approached the table. "Thank you for meeting me. I've missed you so much." She held out the gift bag. "This is for you, a wedding gift I'd picked out months ago." "I'm sorry it's so late." Priya looked at the bag but didn't take it. "Sit down," she said, her voice flat. Mira's smile faltered. She set the bag on the table and sat across from Priya, suddenly nervous.
How are you?
"How's married life?" "How do you think it is?" Priya replied. "I'm adjusting. It's what women do, isn't it? We adjust." "Priya, I'm so sorry about the wedding," Mira began, leaning forward earnestly. "I know I explained in my message, but I need you to really understand. My papa collapsed that morning. The doctors said it was a massive heart attack. I thought he was going to die. I was at the hospital in Ahmedabad by noon, and I didn't leave until late that night. I was so scared I couldn't think straight. I should have called you, I know that now, but in the moment. You found time to text at 11 p.m., Priya interrupted. "But not to call during the day? Not to send a proper message explaining?" "I was in shock," Mira said, her eyes filling with tears. "I wasn't thinking clearly, and honestly, I thought you would understand. I thought our friendship was strong enough that you would know I wouldn't miss your wedding unless it was truly serious." "But I didn't know," Priya said, her voice rising slightly. "I spent my entire wedding day wondering where you were. People kept asking me, 'Where's Mira?' I thought she was your best friend." "Do you know how humiliating that was?" "I understand, and I'm truly sorry," Mira said desperately. "But Priya, my father almost died. Can't you see that I was in an impossible situation?" Priya stared at her across the table, and in that moment something shifted. Looking at Mira's tears, her obvious distress, her genuine attempts at apology, Priya felt nothing but cold fury. Because even now, even in this moment of supposed reconciliation, Mira was making it about herself. Her father, her trauma, her impossible situation. What about Priya's impossible situation? What about the fact that her one perfect day had been ruined? What about the gossip and judgment she had endured? "You're selfish," Priya said quietly. "You've always been selfish. You think because you have a career and live independently that you're better than me. You think my traditional choices are less important than your modern life? That's not true," Mira protested. "I've never thought that. I respected your choices. I loved being part of your wedding preparations, until you didn't show up." They sat in tense silence. Other diners glanced over, sensing the conflict. Finally, Mira spoke, her voice small. "What do you want from me, Priya? Tell me how to fix this." Priya stood abruptly, leaving money on the table for her untouched coffee. "I don't want anything from you. I just wanted you to know how much you hurt me. Enjoy your life, Mira. I'm sure it's everything you wanted." She walked out, leaving Mira sitting alone at the table with tears streaming down her face and an unopened wedding gift between them. The walk back to the Kapoor house took Priya only 15 minutes, but she barely remembered covering the distance. Her mind was a storm of conflicting emotions. Part of her felt vindicated, powerful even, for having confronted Mira and walked away. But another part felt hollow, unsatisfied. The confrontation hadn't brought the relief she had imagined. If anything, she felt worse. When she arrived home, Rahul's mother was already back from the religious function earlier than expected. She looked at Priya with mild disapproval. "Where were you?" "I tried calling. Just getting some air," Priya lied. "I had a headache." Her mother-in-law's expression softened slightly. "You should rest. But first, prepare the evening chai. Rahul's sister is bringing her in-laws over for dinner. We need to make a good impression." Priya nodded mechanically and moved to the kitchen. This was her life now. Chai and dinners and good impressions. No space for her own feelings, her own needs. She mechanically went through the motions of boiling milk, adding tea leaves, measuring cardamom and ginger. The familiar ritual usually calmed her. Today, it felt like chains. That evening, while serving dinner to Rahul's sister's in-laws, Priya's phone buzzed in her pocket. She ignored it through the meal, through the chai service, through an hour of polite conversation she barely participated in. Only when she finally retreated to her bedroom late that night did she check her messages, multiple texts from Mira. "Priya, please don't shut me out like this. I understand you're hurt, but we can work through this. You're my friend. My only real friend in Mumbai. Please respond. I'm worried about you. And then the most recent message, sent just 20 minutes ago. I don't understand what I did that was so unforgivable. I lost you over something I couldn't control. It's not fair. Priya read that last line several times. It's not fair. Mira thought she was the victim here. She thought Priya was being unreasonable. Even after everything, she still didn't understand. Something snapped. Priya typed furiously, "You want to know what's not fair? I'll tell you. It's not fair that you get to live your perfect independent life while I'm trapped serving tea to people I don't even know. It's not fair that you can skip my wedding and then act like I'm the problem for being upset. It's not fair that you ruined the one day that was supposed to be mine. You're a terrible friend. You're a selfish, careless person, and I wish I'd never met you." She hit send before she could reconsider. The message showed as delivered, then read. 3 dots appeared, indicating Mira was typing. Then they disappeared, then appeared again, then disappeared for good. No response came. Priya felt a savage satisfaction. Good. Let Mira feel hurt for once. Let her experience what it was like to be rejected, dismissed, made to feel small. But the satisfaction faded quickly, replaced by a gnawing anxiety. She had gone too far. She knew it even as the adrenaline wore off. Those words were meant to wound, and they had succeeded too well. She wanted to take them back, but pride prevented her. Instead, she lay in bed beside her sleeping husband, staring at the ceiling, her mind spinning. December arrived with wedding season in full swing across Mumbai. Every weekend brought invitations to ceremonies, and Priya found herself attending as part of the Kapoor family contingent. Each wedding was torture. She would watch other brides surrounded by their laughing friends, see bridesmaids taking selfies together, witness the joy that should have characterized her own celebration. Mira hadn't responded to her cruel message. In fact, Mira had gone completely silent. No more texts, no calls, no Instagram post. Priya checked obsessively, multiple times each day. Mira's last post was from November 20th, 2 days after their disastrous meeting. It showed a sunset view from her office window with the caption, "Sometimes you have to let go." Was that about their friendship? Was Mira letting go? The thought filled Priya with an emotion she couldn't name. It wasn't relief. It was closer to panic. By mid-December, Priya's mental state had deteriorated noticeably. She had stopped eating properly, surviving on chai and small portions of whatever she cooked for the family. Sleep was elusive. When she did sleep, she had vivid dreams about the wedding, except in these dreams, Mira would show up after all, only to laugh at Priya in front of everyone. Rahul finally noticed something was wrong. "Are you okay?" he asked one night as they prepared for bed. "You seem different, distant." "I'm fine," Priya said automatically. "Just adjusting." "Is it my mother? Is she too demanding? I can talk to her." "No, it's not that." Priya hesitated, then decided to confide in him. "I had a fight with a friend. Mira, she didn't come to our wedding." Rahul looked confused. "Okay, so you're upset about a missed wedding?" "It's been 2 months, Priya." His casual dismissal stung. "You don't understand. She was supposed to be my best friend, but she's not family," Rahul said, already losing interest. "Friends come and go. You're married now. Those friendships aren't as important anymore." He said it so easily, as if Priya's feelings were trivial, childish, as if her entire identity before marriage didn't matter. She turned away from him, tears burning behind her eyes. The next day, Priya made a decision. She created a fake Instagram account and used it to view Mira's profile. To her shock, Mira had posted a new photo. She was at a Christmas party, dressed in a red dress, smiling alongside work colleagues. The caption read, "New beginnings with amazing people, grateful." Priya stared at the photo for an hour. Mira looked happy, completely unbothered. While Priya was drowning in misery, trapped in a life she hadn't chosen, Mira was thriving, going to parties, making new friends, living her best life. She had moved on, as if Priya had never mattered at all. The injustice of it was overwhelming. Priya had given up everything for her marriage, had sacrificed her independence, her freedom, her identity. And for what? To be dismissed by her husband, controlled by her in-laws, and abandoned by the one friend who was supposed to understand. Meanwhile, Mira faced no consequences. She had hurt Priya deeply, ruined her wedding, and now she was just fine. Better than fine. She was happy. It wasn't right. It wasn't fair. Someone needed to make Mira understand what she had done. Someone needed to make her face consequences for her selfishness. On December 22nd, Priya learned through mutual acquaintances that Mira was planning to attend a friend's engagement party in Bandra on December 28th. The party would be at a private residence, the kind of gathering Mira loved, intimate, artistic, full of young professionals celebrating life. Priya told Rahul's family she would be visiting her parents that day. Her mother confirmed the lie when Rahul's mother called to verify. These small deceptions came easily now. She didn't have a plan exactly. She just knew she needed to see Mira one more time, to confront her, to make her understand, to make her apologize properly, to make her hurt the way Priya hurt. In the back of her mind, a small voice whispered that this was madness, that she needed to let go, that this obsession was destroying her. But that voice grew quieter each day, drowned out by the roaring anger that had become her constant companion. The morning of December 28th dawned cool and overcast. Unusual weather for Mumbai, even in winter. Priya woke early, her heart pounding with an anticipation she couldn't name. Today she would see Mira. Today she would make everything right. Though what right meant had become unclear even to herself. She dressed carefully, choosing a simple navy blue kurti and jeans, an outfit that would help her blend in at the kind of party Mira attended. She applied makeup, then wiped it off and started over twice before settling on a natural look. Her hands trembled as she worked. "You look nice," Rahul commented as she prepared to leave. "Give my regards to your parents." Priya nodded, unable to meet his eyes. The lie sat heavy on her tongue. The engagement party was at a fourth-floor apartment in Pali Hill, one of Bandra's upscale neighborhoods. Priya arrived at 7 p.m., watching from across the street as guests filtered in, carrying gifts and bottles of wine. Music drifted down from the open windows, laughter punctuating the evening air. She waited 30 minutes, scanning each arrival. Finally, she saw her. Mira emerged from an Uber wearing a flowing green dress, her hair loose around her shoulders. She looked radiant, healthy, completely at peace. She carried a wrapped gift and smiled as she greeted someone at the building entrance. Priya's chest tightened. How could Mira look so happy? How could she laugh and smile as if nothing had happened? She crossed the street and followed Mira into the building. The security guard barely glanced at her. She climbed the stairs slowly, her breath coming faster with each step. By the time she reached the fourth floor, she felt dizzy. The apartment door was ajar, propped open to accommodate the flow of guests. Inside, fairy lights created a warm glow. Young people clustered in groups, holding drinks, talking over indie music playing from speakers. It was exactly the kind of sophisticated gathering that Priya had once envied. She spotted Mira in the corner, chatting with two women Priya didn't recognize. Mira's laugh carried across the room, genuine and unguarded. Something about that laugh, so carefree, so unburdened, ignited a fury in Priya's chest. She moved through the crowd, her vision narrowing until all she could see was Mira. People bumped into her, apologized, but she barely noticed. When she was 3 feet away, Mira turned and saw her. The color drained from Mira's face. "Priya!" "We need to talk," Priya said, her voice tight. "Now!" Mira's companions looked between them, sensing tension. "Is everything okay?" one asked. "It's fine," Mira said quickly. "Priya, this isn't the right place. You don't get to decide that," Priya interrupted. "You've been deciding everything. Deciding my wedding wasn't important. Deciding to move on with your perfect life. Deciding I didn't matter. Priya, please, you're making a scene," Mira said quietly, reaching for her arm. Priya jerked away. "Don't touch me. You lost that right when you destroyed my wedding." Other guests were staring now. The music seemed too loud, the lights too bright. Mira's eyes filled with a mixture of concern and fear. "Let's go outside. We can talk privately." They moved to the apartment's small balcony away from the party. The evening air was thick with humidity. Below, Mumbai's traffic hummed its endless song. "What are you doing here?" Mira asked, her voice shaking. How did you even know about this party? I wanted to see if you felt any guilt, Priya said. Any remorse? But you don't, do you? You're just living your life like nothing happened. Priya, I've apologized. I've explained. My father almost died. What more do you want from me? I want you to understand what you took from me. Priya's voice rose. That wedding was everything. It was my one day, and you ruined it because you couldn't be bothered to show up. I was at a hospital with my dying father. Mira's composure cracked. My papa almost died, Priya, died, and you're still angry about a wedding. Yes, because you clearly didn't care enough about me to even properly explain. A text at 11 p.m.? That's all I was worth to you? Mira stared at her, and something in her expression changed. The fear faded, replaced by something harder. You know what, Priya? You're right. I should have handled it better. I should have called. But I was traumatized and scared, and not thinking about your feelings. And I've apologized over and over. But nothing I say will ever be enough for you, will it? Because this isn't really about the wedding. Don't psychoanalyze me, Priya spat. You're miserable in your marriage, Mira continued, her voice gaining strength. You're trapped in a life you're not happy with, and you need someone to blame. So you chose me. You've turned me into the villain of your story, because it's easier than admitting you made choices you regret. The words hit Priya like physical blows. You don't know anything about my life. I know you're not the same person I met in July. I know that girl was excited about her future. And I know the woman standing in front of me now is full of rage she doesn't know what to do with. You did this to me, Priya whispered. But even as she said it, doubt crept in. Was Mira right? Was this really about the wedding? I'm sorry I hurt you, Mira said, her voice gentler now. Truly I am. But I can't keep apologizing forever. I can't be responsible for your happiness. You have to let this go, Priya, for your own sake. Something in Priya's mind shattered. Let it go. How could she let it go when this anger was the only thing keeping her from drowning in her new life? This rage at Mira was the only emotion that felt real anymore. The only thing that was entirely hers in a life where nothing belonged to her. You don't get to tell me what to do, Priya said, her voice dangerously quiet. Then what do you want? Mira asked, exasperated. Tell me what would make this better. Priya reached into her purse. Later, she wouldn't remember making the decision to bring the kitchen knife. She wouldn't remember wrapping it in a cloth napkin. She wouldn't remember sliding it into her bag before leaving the house. But now, her fingers closed around the handle with terrible certainty. I want you to hurt like I hurt, she said, and pulled out the blade. Mira's eyes went wide. Priya, no, the rest happened in seconds. Priya lunged forward. Mira tried to dodge, stumbled against the balcony railing. The knife found flesh once, twice. Mira screamed. People rushed out from the party. Hands grabbed Priya, pulled her back. The knife clattered to the ground. Mira collapsed, blood spreading across her green dress. Her hands pressed to her stomach. Someone was calling for an ambulance. Someone else was crying. Priya stood frozen, staring at her hands, at the blood, at what she had done. Oh God, she whispered. Oh God, what did I do? The ambulance arrived within 12 minutes, sirens wailing through Bandra's narrow streets. Paramedics rushed onto the balcony where Mira lay in a growing pool of blood, her breathing shallow, her face pale as chalk. One stab wound had penetrated her abdomen, the other had struck her shoulder. Both were serious, but neither immediately fatal. As medics worked frantically to stabilize her, Priya remained frozen against the wall where party guests had pinned her. The knife lay on the balcony floor, smeared with blood. Her hands were red. Her navy curtie was splattered. She couldn't stop staring at them. I didn't mean to, she kept repeating. I didn't mean to. I just wanted her to understand. The Mumbai police arrived 6 minutes after the ambulance. Officers secured the scene, separated witnesses, and placed Priya in custody. She didn't resist. She seemed almost relieved when they handcuffed her, as if the weight of what she'd done required physical restraint to contain. What's your name? The senior inspector asked as they led her downstairs. Priya Kapoor, she said automatically, then corrected herself. Priya Sharma. No, Kapoor. I'm married now. She couldn't stop talking as they drove to the police station. Words poured out in a confused stream. She was supposed to come to my wedding. She promised. Everyone asked where she was. I was so embarrassed. I just wanted her to apologize. I brought the knife to scare her. I didn't plan to use it. I didn't plan any of this. Oh God, is she dead? Please tell me she's not dead. At Lilavati Hospital, doctors worked through the night to save Mira's life. The abdominal wound had missed major organs by centimeters, but she'd lost significant blood. Her parents, rushing from Ahmedabad on an emergency flight, arrived at 4 a.m. to find their daughter in intensive care, unconscious but stable. Her father, still recovering from his own heart attack 2 months prior, collapsed in the hospital corridor when he saw her. The cruel irony wasn't lost on anyone. Mira had nearly lost her father in October, and now her parents were nearly losing her in December. Meanwhile, at Bandra police station, investigators pieced together the story. Witnesses described Priya's arrival, the confrontation, the sudden violence. Others provided context, mentioning the wedding, the friendship, the missed event that had somehow spiraled into attempted murder. It's always the small things, the senior inspector muttered to his colleague. 22-year-old girl tries to kill her friend over a missed wedding. What's happening to people? Priya's family was contacted around midnight. Her mother arrived first, crying hysterically, unable to comprehend what her daughter had done. Her father came shortly after, looking 10 years older, his face grey with shock. Rahul arrived last, pulled from sleep by his mother's frantic phone call. This can't be real, he kept saying. Priya wouldn't hurt anyone. She's gentle. She cries during sad movies. This can't be her, but it was her. In the interrogation room, under harsh fluorescent lights, Priya confessed everything. The anger that had consumed her, the obsession that had grown over weeks, the feeling of being trapped in a life she hadn't chosen while Mira lived freely. The knife she'd brought, telling herself it was just for show, knowing deep down it wasn't. I hated her, Priya said, her voice hollow. Not for missing the wedding. For being happy when I wasn't. For having choices when mine were gone. For moving on when I couldn't. And I know that's not her fault. I know I sound crazy. Maybe I am crazy. The police psychiatrist who evaluated her the next day noted symptoms of severe adjustment disorder, possible depression, and what appeared to be a complete emotional breakdown triggered by the stresses of early marriage and social pressure. She needed help, the psychiatrist wrote in her report. Instead, she got a wedding. Mira regained consciousness on December 30th. Her first words were, "Is Priya okay?" Her mother, sitting beside her hospital bed, burst into tears. "Don't worry about her. She did this to you. She tried to kill you." She was hurting, Mira whispered.
I should have seen it.
"I should have done more. This isn't your fault," her father said firmly. Nothing you did or didn't do justifies what she did, but Mira couldn't shake the guilt. As she recovered over the following days, she replayed every conversation, every message, every moment of their friendship. Had she been insensitive? Had she failed to see Priya's struggles? Could she have prevented this? Her therapist would later tell her that she was experiencing a common reaction among assault victims, the need to find meaning, to assign blame, even to themselves. "Some people are dealing with mental health crises we can't see," the therapist explained. You were kind to her. You apologized for missing her wedding. You did nothing wrong." Priya was formally charged with attempted murder on January 2nd, 2026. She was denied bail, given the severity of the crime and clear premeditation evidenced by bringing a weapon. The case attracted significant media attention, with headlines screaming, "Wedding jealousy turns deadly," and "Bride's rage, friend stabbed over missed ceremony." The coverage was sensationalistic and often missed the deeper issues at play. Few articles mentioned the immense pressure placed on young Indian women during marriage, the loss of identity many experience, or the mental health crisis that goes unaddressed in communities that prioritize family honor over individual well-being. Rahul filed for divorce in February. His family wanted nothing to do with the scandal. "She brought shame on our name," his mother said. Priya's own parents were torn between defending their daughter and reconciling with what she'd done. Her father's health deteriorated from the stress. Her mother stopped leaving the house, unable to face neighbors' judgment. In March 2026, Mira was finally discharged from the hospital. She had undergone 2 surgeries and would carry scars for the rest of her life. But she was alive. She returned to Ahmedabad, unable to face Mumbai anymore. Her company allowed her to work remotely. "I lost my friend twice," she told her therapist during one session. "Once when our friendship fell apart, and again when she tried to kill me. And somehow the first loss still hurts more." Priya's trial was scheduled for July 2026. Her lawyers would argue for reduced charges based on mental health issues, claiming she'd experienced a psychotic break. The prosecution would argue premeditation, pointing to the weapon she'd brought, the lies she'd told to attend the party, the clear intent. In her jail cell, Priya spent hours writing letters to Mira that she never sent. "I'm sorry," filled page after page, but the words felt inadequate. How do you apologize for trying to end someone's life? How do you explain that you didn't hate them but hated yourself and couldn't tell the difference? The case sparked conversations across India about the pressures young women face, about mental health resources, about how small resentments can grow into tragedies when left unaddressed. Support groups formed for women struggling with marriage adjustment. Counseling services saw increased demand. But for the 2 families at the center of this tragedy, no amount of societal discussion could undo what had happened. Mira would carry physical and psychological scars forever. Priya would likely spend the next decade in prison. 2 lives destroyed, countless others damaged. All because anger was allowed to fester until it exploded. The engagement party host, cleaning blood off her balcony days later, found the wrapped gift Mira had brought that night. Inside was a beautiful journal with a note that read, "For writing all your couple memories. Congratulations to the happy couple." Simple, thoughtful, evidence of a young woman who came to celebrate love, only to nearly die because someone else's love story hadn't felt perfect enough. In the end, this wasn't a story about a missed wedding. It was a story about mental health ignored, about the pressure cooker of societal expectations, about how we sometimes hurt the people closest to us when we can't articulate our own pain. It was a story about 2 young women who should have been friends for life, but instead became headlines. Mira survived. Priya was arrested, and somewhere in Mumbai, another bride was planning her perfect wedding, unaware that perfection is an illusion, and that beneath the surface of every celebration, someone might be drowning. The question isn't just how we prevent violence. It's how we recognize when someone is suffering before their pain becomes someone else's tragedy. It's how we create space for women to admit they're struggling without fear of judgment. It's how we value mental health as much as we value tradition. These lessons came too late for Priya and Mira, but perhaps not too late for others.